Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. In this video, how to brew with a Yixing Clay teapot. In this video, I'm going to show you the basics of how to brew with a Yixing Clay teapot, and then we're going to do a taste test between the clay and brewing in glass. If at any point in time you enjoy this video, then please give the video the thumbs up. The more thumbs in the air, the more tea videos are going to come your way. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, then go click that button. Okay, so in a previous episode, we talked about an introduction to the Yixing Clay teapot, where I talked about what you should look for when choosing a clay teapot and why clay teapots are so desirable. In this episode, we're going to show you how to brew with this teapot. So let's get started. I have chosen here some fresh raw pu'er tea. So this is an autumn-picked 2015 raw pu'er from Jingmai Mountain. I'm going to be doing a review on this tea later, so I'm not going to talk too much about the tea itself. I'll save that for another episode. But the reason why I picked this is because this type of tea, the fresh, young, raw pu'ers, have a stronger tendency to be astringent and potentially develop bitter notes. So let's see how the Yixing Clay teapot holds up. So first things first, I'm going to take some boiling water. This is freshly boiled water, just before the camera started rolling. And I'm going to pour hot water, boiling water, over the teapot. Now the reason for doing this is because the clay is a very slow conductor of heat. That's what makes it so great for brewing, because it holds temperature so well. But the converse of that is it needs to warm up. So you can't just brew direct, you need to warm the teapot up. After I've warmed the teapot up, I'm going to put some of these lovely leaves in. Now, in terms of the amount, you would normally be looking at about a third to half filled. But when you have wiry leaves like this, that have a lot of air space between the leaves, you're going to be putting a little bit more in, just because you know that there's a lot of air sitting there. If it was a bull roll dulong, then I would be putting less in. Okay, so now the tea is in a hot pot or a warm pot. I'm just going to put the lid on and then give it a smell. And it's amazing how much of the aromatics of the tea come out just by putting it in a warm pot. If you smell a dry tea, it usually doesn't give you too much in terms of an indication of its quality. But the moment you put it into a warm pot, it really does start to reveal some of the flavor. Okay, so now we're going to pour from a decent height just to get the leaves moving around a little bit. And you're going to pour it right to the top, just so it starts to overflow. And you're going to start to see this foam bubbles form. You then scrape it, drop the lid, that flushes the teapot full of the tea. And then I like to pour a little bit more water over just to keep the temperature and rinse off any foam there. So this is the tea wash, clearly. What we're going to do is pour the tea wash off into a fairness cup or a gongdao bei. All of this assumes that you have a water catcher to collect all your water. If you don't, you can still use a Yixing Clay pot, but you'd have to be doing it next to your sink to avoid a mess with spillages of water. Now the pouring action of this teapot is excellent, but you want a very fast, decisive action. You don't want to pour in an angle, you want to pour vertically very quickly. So hold the lid and twist. You can see if you do that, you're not going to get any leaks. It's a very nice, fast pouring action. And it releases all of the tea quite quickly. Make sure you get everything out and then give it another smell. And obviously now that it's had a chance to infuse, you're getting more and more aroma. Different from the dry leaf in a dry warm pot. You're getting a lot more of the aroma from the brew. So now we will pour this into our cups. You can pour it over your teapot, but the most important thing to do is to pour the tea wash over your pot. And the reason for that is because the essential oils in the tea will start to coat the tea pot, and it will start to develop over time a lovely luster and shine called a patina as the teapot's, the exterior clay starts to absorb some of the essential oils of the tea. I'm just going to pour this away. Again, give it a sniff. Lovely. Really starting to reveal a lot more of the notes. Okay, so we've washed the tea, we've primed the teapot. This teapot is now nice and warm, so now we can pour the water over again. You could boil this water again if you wanted super hot water, but this is still very hot water. Now, I don't fill right necessarily to the top. I don't think that that's necessary. Put the lid on, and again, give it another little coating of water. This is just to, again, hold temperature. Make sure that the temperature in there stays nice and consistent. And there you go. For a pu'er tea like this, we would normally be brewing in 5-10 second bursts. I'm intentionally going to leave this a bit longer here. The reason is because I want to brew a very strong tea and test how well this Yixing Clay teapot is holding up in terms of controlling the astringency of the tea. So I'm going to leave that for a little bit, and I'm going to quickly put some, while the water is still hot, I'm going to put the remainder of this tea into a glass teapot, give it a quick rinse. So what we're doing here is we're going to be testing the difference between brewing in clay and brewing in glass. Right, leave that aside for a second. Again, quick movement, very decisive movement. That way you're not going to get leaks. If you pour too slowly, what's going to happen is that the tea is going to start to drip down and you're going to get a stain. You've got a hole here on the top of the lid, so you can stop the pour and continue it. So if you wanted to pour direct into cups, you could do that, but we're pouring directly into a gong dao bay here. Again, make sure you get everything out so there's no liquid left in the teapot. Have a sniff. This is part of the appreciation. You get so much of the aromatics. If you just go for the tea, you're losing out on a lot of the aromatics. And make sure that you leave the lid off. You don't want to leave the lid on. You want the leaves to start to cool down, release the steam that's in here so it doesn't stew. And now you're ready to taste. So I'll give this a quick taste. So this is a little bit stronger than I normally would brew, just to test out the Yixing Clay. And it is quite remarkable how smooth and how lacking in astringency this is. I mean, you want, with raw young pu'er, some astringency. It would be terrible if there was none. But it's just got a lovely, thicker, more smooth texture than you would expect for such a strong brew with so much leaf. Okay, so what we're going to quickly do is brew this up in a little bit of water, not too much. I'm going to brew that quite strong. I'm going to rinse out these teacups here so that they have been cleaned. And now we're going to do a little taste test. I'm going to put that to a side. We're going to do a little taste test to see the difference between brewing in clay and in glass. Now remember, there are two reasons why the material of clay can change the flavor of your tea. The first is that it starts to absorb the essential oils of the tea, so it starts to season the teapot, and therefore over many, many infusions, hundreds of infusions, it starts to build up extra flavor that it reveals in subsequent brews. But that's quite a long process. Really, the quicker process and the almost instant process is the reaction of the tea with the clay. Now remember, this clay, this Zisha clay, has a lot of minerals that will react with the tea because it's an unglazed pot. So it will react with the tea and it will change the tea. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take a different gong dao bay so that there's no influence here. And I'm going to strain off this quite strong tea here into the gong dao bay. And you can do this at home if you want to taste the difference and the effect that the clay has. I'm just going to warm this teapot up a little bit because this is a fresh teapot, and you want to open up the pores and start to let the teapot expand. So I'm just going to pour that off. So this is now nice and warm. Right, so I've got 2 teacups here. I'm going to pour some of the glass brewed and then poured into a porcelain gongdao base, so there's no effect on the flavor that's happening because these are all glazed pots. I'm going to pour that into 1 cup, and then I'm going to pour 1 cup's worth into the clay pot. And instantly, that is reacting, the tea is reacting with the clay. I can immediately pour it out. So now I have 2 cups in front of me, one of which has not been affected, not touched the clay, and one has. Let's see if we can discern a difference between the two. Still remarkably smooth. This is excellent tea. I'm getting a slight catch and a slight dryness in the throat. The difference is there. Absolutely. Try this at home. And what I hope you'll notice, it's not a huge difference, but what I hope you'll notice is that the tea from the clay pot has just got a slightly thicker, more viscous feel to it. It's got a smoother finish, so it doesn't catch. You don't get this kind of tannic grip in the throat as much. Of course you get some. This is tea we're talking about. You don't want tea that doesn't have astringency, but when I swallow this tea, all of my tongue starts to pucker up and I get a slight dryness in the throat. Much, much less in the clay. And that is one of the reasons, one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, why brewing in a Yixing Clay teapot is so desirable, because you can brew stronger, you can brew more astringent teas, you can brew hotter, you can extract more, and you still have a lovely smooth tea that doesn't have excessive astringency or bitterness. Try this at home. I'm sure that you're going to notice a difference. That's it, tea heads. If you made it to the end of this video, then please give the video the thumbs up. Check out our YouTube playlists and let us know if there are any videos that you would like us to make. If you're ever in London, then come visit us in Camden to say hi and taste our wares. If you have any questions or comments, then fire them over. Other than that, I'm Don May from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from the tea bags, keep drinking the good stuff, and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.